So I have to, Uwe, first, how have you been? How's life treating you? How is all that going for you?
So far so good. Let's say it this way. No, we had the summer holidays now here in Germany also, and
Okay.
I had like my not only the family here, but also a lot of friends from Vancouver came over this summer, and so we were like doing a lot of sightseeing. Yeah, like going around, like showing the
Yes.
cars and all
Yep.
that stuff. Yeah, and so I'm always happy if we get visitors, but of course it's also work indirectly, right? Because
Yes.
you
Yes.
you you have a lot of times where you don't get your stuff done what you normally should do, and yeah. But one more week and then it's over. We can all go back to business, basically.
Yes. Yes. So let me ask you, why did you step away? Because I know for those listening who might not be familiar, you stepped away for a while. I think you went into the restaurant business, if I'm correct. I'll be embarrassed if I am
Yeah.
not. What's ironic though is that you went from one industry that's very difficult to another industry that's also very difficult. Like I thought maybe you could do like a sightseeing in Germany, something that you would enjoy. But
Yes.
why did you step away? I've always wondered that.
I love the wrong things, right? So I love making films and I love good food. So no, it was like two. They were basically. It was not really the reason that I felt like I don't want to make films anymore. I wanted to make films, but I didn't saw the light at the end of the tunnel in a way when Blockbuster closed and this kind of. I mean, you have the collection right behind you, right? So
Mm,
they
mm,
DVDs and video, Blu-rays and so on, rental and sales were the backbone of independent films, and was the backbone really to recoup also bigger budgets for non-studio films. And when that fell apart, and you had like the beginning of Netflix or the beginning of the streaming, there was no comparison. Like you basically
mm,
could not make more as 10% of what you made before on video and Blu-ray. So
mm,
I felt, okay, you know what, that it's over. Like, I don't know how I should finance a film. I don't know how I should be recouping a film.
mm.
And so that was the reason I put a break in, and basically felt like, you know what, let's figure something out. Let's see what's happening. And then 2021, when I closed, then came COVID and all that stuff, and we closed the restaurant. And then
Hmm.
at the same time, I started thinking more about my dog's barking in the back. But and I felt like, I really miss making films. I have to try harder to make something going. And then I saw also that streaming kind of replaced this video revenues, not in full, but now we were like on 50% or 60% possible recoupment. And at the same time, film production got cheaper in regards of the technical crew, right? When you shoot Alexa, digital and stuff, it is cheaper. The post-production, the computer effects, all that stuff, the camera rental was clearly cheaper, as you have to send 35 millimeter material every day into the lab. So that all came together.
Right, right. And you're clearly a passionate filmmaker. I mean, I'm partial to Rampage, Postal, obviously, Bloodrayne. But your battle with critics is just that's almost been a different thing in itself. How have you how have you felt about that? Because I feel like oftentimes it's you have a love-hate relationship, and many times it's a hate-hate relationship. I think people have been unfair to you. I think you are misunderstood. I think you are a passionate filmmaker. Just tell me about that. Tell me about your the because I have to say when this interview is done, I'll be like, oh, I should have asked him this, or I second guess myself a lot. First, let me ask you: what's your perception of critics, and are they doing their job? Because like if we look at like Rotten Tomatoes, there's a critic score and a fan score, and I always feel like the critic score does not reflect what the fans want. I feel like they're always very different. So it's like if you're a critic, I want you to see the movie and then tell me so I know what to expect. And I feel like that doesn't happen. I'm rambling here, but whatever you wanted to add to that.
No, I agree with you. It's like when you go like on Amazon and you check my films, you will see most of my films have like between 3.5 and 4.6 whatever points. Like it's like a lot of times I have 4 points, but the reviewers, the critics gave me 1 or 2 points. So it's this kind of like there is a huge difference between the actual film watchers, like the audience, and the reviewers in regards of my films. Then the other thing is, when I did the video game based movies, starting with House of the Dead, I think it was like so unusual that you got automatically hate from the reviewers who felt, oh, primitive shooting video games, like violent video games getting made into movies now, and now this Uwe Boll guy is making one after the other. We have to, in a way, not only stop it but also like give him shit. So that was a thing where what they used in a way. And when you see like the hate came really after Alone in the Dark and Bloodrayne, but these two movies turned everybody against me with all the petition, stop making movies, the Golden Raspberry nominations and stuff like this. And I felt, especially then later when I did Postal or Rampage or South on Wall Street, Darfur, like all these kind of films, I got the same reviews, no matter what I was shooting. And I felt like, you know, that was this kind of thing. That's why I also like attacked the press back, because I said, your job is to watch every single new film with fresh eyes. So you cannot have, because I mean, we know it's existing. There are a lot of filmmakers, they start with 1 or 2 good films, and then they're getting good reviews, even for the last shit they shoot. You know, where you you have filmmakers, they fell apart during their career, but they're still getting some good reviews because they're so loved from the beginning of the career. In my case, it was the opposite. I started with that video game stuff, got very bad reviews, and then I basically could shoot really, really good and even important films, you know, like look at Rampage, totally foreshadowing the whole political landscape we're in. And, you know, and then you never get credit for it. And you think like, is that not strange in a way that I'm in public, this kind of like the new Ed Wood and all that stuff. But then when you actually meet people that watch the films, a lot of people, like, look, the editor from First Shift, Easton Manicus, he did Sin City, From Dusk Till Dawn, all that films. And he said he loved Postal. And he said Robert Rodriguez loved Postal. You know, Sammy Shaikh, who was in Darfur, he told me he got only hired by Clint Eastwood for American Sniper. He plays the bad guy.
Yeah.
Only because of Darfur, right? So that means Clint Eastwood watched Darfur, but I don't know that, you know, and it looked like he at least liked Sammy Shaikh. So, but that is the thing. So I know that there is some of my films, they made the round and people know they're good, but they're also in a way scared to say, I like that Uwe Boll film. And I don't like it like 3 out of 5. No, I mean 5 out of 5. You know, so that's the thing. And yeah, I mean, but when you're in that treadmill, you have 2 options, right? You get depressed or you kind of fight back. And I never like bend over, right? I always like this kind of, you know, give the critics shit, and that made them even more aggressive.
Yeah. And I feel like you got bad reviews, I feel like, even before people saw a movie. Like, so it's like in podcasting, so the comparison would be like, I release something and I know there's other podcasters in the same field, like they give it a thumbs down, or just so it makes your score look terrible and makes you look like an ass. So that's kind of what I feel like you go through too. So that's the one thing I think we have in common at times. You know?
No, it's like this prejudgment, right? This kind of like they don't try to go without their personal agenda. I want to hate that guy into something. So you cannot turn them around, and no matter what's happening. And that's kind of tough. But of course, over time, the only way to handle it is to just have to try to ignore it. I'm not reading everyday critics about my films. It's more important that you do stuff you like to do and that you are happy with it, that you don't say later, oh God, how could I cast this person, how could I shoot this way, whatever. So I had that too. It's not that I'm happy with all my films. So but I think the most important thing is that you are like happy with the result you did, and that you can stand behind it.
No, that's really well said. I have a few more questions before we hop into first shift. So, in many of your films, you've worked with some iconic talent. Statham, J.K. Simmons, Elizabeth Moss, Ben Kingsley, the unbelievably underrated Claire Forlani. Is there an actor that you've worked with over your career that stands out or is very memorable for you? I mean, obviously there could be multiple. I get that. Maybe it's somebody I didn't even mention. But is there somebody during your films, your career that you've worked with that has really stood out to you?
I mean, it's of course different when you have like a Ben Kingsley sitting in front of you.
That's true. Yeah.
You shoot with him. It's kind of your déjà vu, right? So you see people, or Burt Reynolds in The Name of the King. A legend sits in front of you then as an older guy playing the king. And that has, of course, something, right? It's like you cannot really be as a director totally like struck, like that you're like, oh, what I'm doing here with Burt Reynolds. So you have to work with him then too. And they're all humans too. They're not like the people they act to be. So, but at the same time, of course, that was great to shoot with Jason Statham or this kind of actors. But when you go to personal, look, Michael Paré, I did a lot of things with Clint Howard. Like a lot of actors came back. Brandon Fletcher is in a lot of my films, and there are people I enjoy personally also. Like I get good along with them. We have a beer together, we eat together, and there are friendships they develop. And then you have, like, I have to say, on First Shift, Kristen Renton and Gino Pesi, and also Daniel Soli, who are like, Kristen is also in my new film Run, and Daniel Soli too. I enjoyed so much working with them that I gave them roles, like parts in another film. And that is definitely, I think as a director, there are these things, oh, that guy is very good for my film, but it's hard to work with him, and the people like, these are great actors. I love them. I have fun shooting with them, but they're maybe not the sales tool, not the stars who can sell a movie. They're just good actors. And so that's the thing, like Ray Liotta was in The Name of the King was problematic to shoot with. He didn't like I don't think he likes fantasy films, whatever. When I shot way later suddenly with him, where he played a cop, it was day and night. He was relaxed. He played a part he can play blind, right? So it's like this kind of, he was a totally different human being on set. He liked Michael Paré too, Dominic Purcell. He had a good relationship with everybody. You could go for dinner with him. It was a great situation. And I'm happy that I had the chance to work with him again, because if I did only In the Name of the King with him, I would maybe said, oh, I maybe don't want to work with him again.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's also finding your way, because knowing we were going to speak, I know you're German, and I know that I was thinking Christoph Waltz is German. I was thinking about how he was this great actor until Tarantino finds him, right? And he finds his niche with him, and it ends up with 2 Academy Award wins. But there's a director who found a guy that they meshed really well together. And I think a good director does that. And it seems like you have a good rapport with many of the actors you shoot with, and many times, often, these actors come back to work with you multiple times. And I think that's key, is the relationship in bringing out their best.
Yeah, and they like it too, that they can talk to me. I'm a fast shooter, so I like to just have 2 cameras rolling and we shoot and shoot. But that brings then also a little time where you can say, look, if you want to do this scene a little different, just show me, we're shooting it, right? So,
right.
I mean, that's the good thing now with shooting basically digital, is you can just run it. You don't have to like rehearse because it's 35 millimeter and costs a lot of money. You can say, look, we shoot your version now. Do it harder as I told you, or do it faster, and I think actors like it if they can bring themselves also in. If they don't have the feeling like, oh, if I don't say it exactly how it's written in the script, he will flip out on me or something.
Right. Yeah. First Shift, I really enjoyed this movie, and I have to say, Yeah, it's a movie. It's a police movie, a law enforcement movie, but it's also a movie about developing strong relationships, right? That's it. Like you could
Mm.
have in anything, but I have to tell you, I don't know why. I'm very grateful for law enforcement. I'm very grateful we have. I don't know
Yeah.
how anybody could do that because I feel like mentally there isn't a job that's more difficult on your day-to-day psyche than being a police officer and what you have to go through. Is that part of it, you
Yes.
think?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to show too. Like every day could be your last day. You know,
Yes.
I mean, we're
Yes.
reading in the press nonstop about police people like shooting somebody, but oh, sorry, but when you see what they go through, the risks they taking, you know, and normally in their normal daily routine, they don't even pull the weapon out, right? They try to de-escalate any situation without like any kind of force, because they're also kind of, that is the reason I have these different episodes. Look, when he gets the dog, right? These things happen where police people like just help out, like they work in a way, they're indirectly also social workers and try to like stop fighting, that everybody gets good along, you know, or helping people that are in big shit and so on. And I think that was important. I think to show it and not to forget, we make also kind of a police action film where something has to happen. But a good friend of mine works here for the German big guys, like a FBI in Germany, and I meet him every week for a beer. And the things he tells me is this kind of like, yeah, I have stress too as a filmmaker, but not this kind of stress.
Right.
You know, where
Right.
you really
Right.
don't know, where you go somewhere in and you don't know if these people are armed and will shoot you. And so they take that risk. And I think
Yeah.
in First Shift, there is a very important scene with Gino telling her when she tasers the guy, where he says, "No, it's not that that you're not capable, but I just don't want on your first day that something happens to you because I will be completely responsible for it," and that is very realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I just, it's risking your life every day. It's, deciding to use force when you have to. Even if you're in the right, you still have to go through so many things. Like it's just such a thankless profession. I feel like they don't get enough appreciation, law enforcement. And your film when I was watching, I kept thinking that. Like you have to be a really special person to want to go into law enforcement.
Yes, 100%.
How much back you mentioned your friend, how much back research do you do before kind of coming through with this? Do you research multiple pieces? How does that work for you, your
So
process?
we talked to New York, Brooklyn cops, what Ari Taub, the line producer, he
Yeah.
had good contacts to them. He has also like a carry license and all that stuff. So he's very connected to them. So we showed them the script. They had a lot of changes in the script, but we all did, what was good. And then I brought them in contact to Gino, who lives in Pittsburgh. And that he talks to them, and then he met them in New York and he went through the normal behavior with them. So it's like, I mean, Gino played not cops, but he played the state attorney. So he was not like totally that he doesn't know anything about it, but it was important because Brooklyn is also different as Pittsburgh. I mean, the
Yeah.
amount of crime in New York is different as in other cities. And so I think that also the way they talk and so on, that was important to get it right. And they were like a lot of the extras on the film, where there are real cops. So they
Right.
just they took a day off or two and played then the cops in our film. They loved it.
Oh, that's really cool. Before I just want to tell people it's available first shift theaters on demand August 30th. I want to end with this. Is there a filmmaker that you admire? Is there somebody that you enjoy watching maybe in your spare time or with family or friends, or is there somebody
I
that
mean,
you're partial to, or maybe multiple people?
yeah, of course. I mean, I grew up with a lot of Western. I love John Wayne Western. So the Howard Hawks, John Ford is a big idol of mine, and I love, there was one interview, I think, I mean, Orson Welles, of course, they have great filmmakers. Spielberg did great films, but it's not like Jaws is one of my favorite films of all time. And, but John Ford gave an interview to BBC in the 50s or 60s. And he said, look, and I, in a way, indirectly, but I try to tell the story straight. You know, it's like I don't try to make 100 parallel things. You know, like I try to stay on the main point. And John Ford said when the guy asked him, he was a big John Ford fan. He said, "Oh, you got the Oscars, got this and whatever." And he said, "I never cared about this." He said, "I care about telling a story." And just like get the audience for 2 hours or 100 minutes or whatever it is, just following that story or following the lead actor doing the story. And that is my approach too. And I feel, as you see, I make 95 minutes, 100 minutes films. I don't like the 3 hours films we're getting now left and right. I don't need Avengers and even Mission Impossible. I don't need these movies being 170 minutes. You know, I think they're too long, too much CGI, too much fake stuff. Nothing is realistic anymore. In early James Bond films, you had a real James Bond car chase. Now it's all CGI. So that the films I grew up with that were more real, Ronin, French Connection, all that stuff, Heat, they're all films I really love. And of course, I grew up with the early Oliver Stone stuff, Born on 4th of July, this kind of films, there were JFK. I loved that films. And but that is a director who went a little off the board, right? So I mean, he's not there since 15, 20 years since Alexander on that. He lost it at one point. And I have that with a few directors where I love some, like I love There Will Be Blood from Paul Thomas.
Yeah.
It's a masterpiece. I love that film, but I cannot say that I love all his films. You know, I'm not like some films were like, I don't know. So, but John Ford is a guy, I think it's as a human being, was an ideal role model. You know, he just focused on the stuff. And when they asked him, why you made so many Western? And he said, yeah, because the two reasons I like Western, but the second thing is also the natives at that point, all that Seahawks and they had no money, and he helped them because he said I used them all as extras for all my films, so they made good money and could survive. You know, and that I think was a great move from him. When you have the power, like what we did in Darfur, we used real Sudanese refugees, and we all gave them very good money, way more as we would had to, you know, to just get on their feet in living in the slums, actually, in South Africa. We made them, one could go to the nursing school after and so on. You know, I could also went there and say, look, we totally give them $50 and that is it, because they will do it for $50. There's no money, right? But we paid them totally normal, like Hollywood standard rates, and it made like 100 refugees, like more solid, you know? So, naja, but that, I mean, that is a long story, but of course I'm a big film buff, and I love movies, and yeah.
My favorite thing about you is I love your passion for filmmaking. I could just sense it talking to you, and I really appreciate this time. I'm a big fan, so thank you for that. I appreciate this.
No problem.
Have a great day.